and get started here. Let me come up here. So about me, I'm Dylan. I'm founder here at Worldwide Studios along with Michael. Our goal is basically to get people learning, get people doing with the latest technology. So with that in mind, today what I want to do is I used to make video when I was a little kid. I learned to code by making little 2D video games, and I was always a passion of mine. So I wanted, when I'm thinking of what we could vibe code this time, I wanted to do how in the hour, what can I get through with a video game, fully AI, just using fully AI even for the assets. So I'm trying to put together a little Metroid. It doesn't quite get there, but I think we get a basic shooter engine in place, and we can show the process of what that looked like. So some caveats. I try to do as scientific as I can with the prompts. I tested them a bunch. There's a little bit of art to coding with AI. So I'm going to give a prompt a pass, maybe a second pass and some follow-up. If that doesn't work, I've checked out a branch on my repo for every step of the way. That way, if we're totally blocked, we can just move on instead of spending a lot of time on each prompt. Yes, there's a repo here. If some prerequisites are, you're going to need VS Code and you're going to need npm. You can get away with cursor. You could definitely use cursor or something. You would just need to go in and change the Copilot instructions to a cursor .md, but it would probably still work pretty well. Okay, so maybe a brief intro to the Copilot instructions. If you go in here in the repo, if you want to clone the repo, I would recommend that and opening it in VS Code. If you can't do that, then I'll just walk through a little bit. I've done that here. I've got the repo sitting here. One of the main things that I want to show off today is it's a lot better. You can just go in blank, start asking the agent here to do things, and it will go off. It's usually pretty bad though. It's going to have a mind of its own. It's going to do its own style, probably invent style as it goes, use whatever tech it wants, even use whatever programming language it wants, generally speaking. So for me, I've built this pretty robust Copilot instruction. It's the same thing. We've talked about this before on previous calls. The same thing as a cursor markdown file, Claude, Gemini, all of them allow for these. They're basically a system prompt. They're not quite the same thing as system prompt, but that's basically what they do. And you can get here, it's just a TypeScript, so I only need one, but you can get pretty robust. If you're in a big repository, there's Python, there's Java, whatever languages there are, you can scope it down to apply to certain files, even certain folders. You can have a big system prompt per folder, so it gets pretty nice for sticking with your code style, putting in your data structures, making sure it's only using and writing code that you find acceptable. So in here, I have a few things. First thing I always do is I tell it to start in plan mode and present me a plan for what it's going to do. I will say that I switched from GPT-4 to GPT-5, and GPT-5 is not good at obeying that at all. It just kind of does. Luckily, it's pretty good at actually generating the code, so I don't have a lot of complaints about it. But it's not great at presenting me the plan first. And here I'm telling it, what tech I want to use. Let's use npm, Vite for a server, use HTML5 canvas. Phaser is a pretty common HTML5 game engine. Another thing I always do is tell it to comment all code with in Python, they're called a doc string. In this, they're called a TS doc. And it's just a comment either above or below the function that says what that function is going to do. And I found that it's a lot better. If it has to explain itself, it seems like it's better at generating code for that. And then there's a bunch of, I won't go too much into detail here. What I have done is I have this resources file. If you click into it, I found a cool Reddit thread where I actually stole this and this from, where this guy who's not an engineer, talks about, here, I'll just go straight to it for a second. Shows off his Copilot instruction. Yeah, shows off his Copilot instruction, and then there's a bunch of people responding. So I've linked that here. I've also linked this. I think I actually found it from here. There's this really awesome repository that has a ton, for every language, for every framework you can imagine, people provide their Copilot instructions. So I'd recommend, if you're just trying to start generating code, I would recommend going in here. Whatever you're trying to do, like quick Google, quick chat GPT, you can find the framework, just copy paste that, and then the code that you get will be like probably 10 to 15 times better than if you just went in blind.
Can you do that in Cursor too?
You can. The only difference is the file name. In Cursor, it's a cursor all capital .md.
Okay.
And the same with Claude. Claude, if you have a Claude all capital .md, and even Gemini, they all have the same concept for like a system prompt file. So I would just change the name. I can't imagine there's going to be much difference. If you just change the name, it's probably going to work 90% the same. Another thing that I did, so I wanted to actually use assets. I did one of these before where I generated like a simple Mario, like old-fashioned Donkey Kong style game, but I was just using like a circle and some squares. I wanted to actually use assets this time. I tried to do this a few months ago. I tried with ChatGPT and even Gemini before, and they were pretty bad, but the new Gemini Nanobanana was pretty good. So like to get this sprite and even this background, what I did, you could probably just ask it, generate me, maybe I'll try that, just generate me a shooter style sprite sheet. See what it does there. See how well it does. While it does that, what I actually did though is there's a really cool website called Spriter's Resource, which I used to use back in the day. It's like 25-year-old website, and these people like 20 years ago just dumped every 2D video game on every console that existed at the time, and they've like any video game you can think of that existed in like 2003, they probably have sprites for it. So what I did to get the ones I use is I just typed in like Zelda 2. Let's see, go to games. Yeah, here we go. And then I just copied link, copy the image, and then went to Gemini. Yeah, see, it's not bad actually. This isn't bad. This is not the style that I was envisioning, but it's not bad at all. So you could just get away with that. You could prompt it to be more like this is a guy. You could say like give me a girl, which is what I did here. What I did was I just pasted this and I said, give me a sprite sheet similar to this one, but make the character a woman and make her sci-fi military-esque with a gun for a shooter game. Make the aesthetic alien. Yeah, let's go. Similar to the Alien movies. Basically Samus. I'm just trying to get Samus without actually saying that out loud, but it came close, at least here. Let's see. Yeah. This is a little different. I would follow up and say, like, put her in a mech suit, maybe. It is included. If you go into the repo, we pasted the repo, but if you go in there and you click resources.md, I have it linked in there under it's this. I can also just paste it here for you.
Thanks.
Maybe. Not letting me paste. Okay, yeah, I don't know, for some reason the copy is not working super well here. So I'll send that in a follow-up, but otherwise there you go. Okay, and then once you have this, just save it. And going back to the repo here, now I've already generated these, and there's one specific bit that you have to use. So I'm going to just use the one I already generated, but I generated this. I think I just called it Jules. Yeah, there you go. Jules, and you can see like it even includes link. So it's not like 100% at changing it. It still has link here, but like this is pretty good. This is exactly what I was picturing. So it comes across pretty good. The reason why I'm just going to use this is because you actually need to, like I use GIMP to do it, but in order to extract a sprite sheet, you need the top left and the top right, or the bottom right here, so the code can then extract that sprite sheet, extract that sprite from the sprite sheet. And I'll show you that and 1 second in one of the prompts. I also did a background, so it's really good at taking that, like using this same aesthetic. Give me a creepy horror sci-fi background. Make it sprite-like and for use in a 2D shooter game. Yeah, not quite, not quite. Do this again with similar vibes, but make it a repeatable background image, e.g. the background of a ship. And what I got is this. Yeah, pretty good. Actually, that's really close to the same. Yeah, pretty good. And then the one thing I couldn't AI generate, you can, there's music generators. I didn't do that just because there's a ton of really good sounds, and I tried to ask Gemini and it can't yet do sounds. So I think I also linked that in resources. Yeah, I went to this website. There's a bunch of these. All I did was Google like video game sounds, and it has a bunch of sounds for like the shooting, for the background music, stuff like that. And I can show you before we actually dive into the generating it, the end result like this. So I just wanted to have a like basic. You can see even with the sprite, like I didn't remove the background. That's pretty easy to do with maybe. Pretty easy to do. There's basically any 2D game engine will allow, like you see this pink color. By default, a lot of them just remove this pink and then the green. So you can just set the pixel color and transparent. That's not too important to me right now, so I left that. Another thing that you're shooting is like a bug is what was that? So that's the end result I'm trying to get to today. I got there just with like, you see there's like 6-7 prompts. Each one is a little specific, so we'll dive into those and talk about kind of the prompt style. But all of that, there's no code written. I just let the AI do all of it. So with that said, we'll actually start. As I hinted at earlier, there's an art to it. I did a lot of these prompts. I spent a lot of time on most of them, and like deleting everything, rerunning, deleting them, rerunning, and they are generally good. They seem to work. With that said, like we're on a call and things usually, what can go wrong usually does. So if any prompt becomes a little problematic, I'm just going to move on because I do have a branch for each step of the way. All right, so then diving in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch, and we'll call it like build one. Okay. And I am using Git. I would recommend anytime you're using code at all, always use Git. That really helps here. Like you see, I can branch for each step of the way. I can roll back. I can just delete everything and start over. So it's really, really handy to check in changes. So here I have a first prompt. And to talk a little bit about prompt, generally, like, I don't know, you can ask things here and just hope for the best, but I found that usually like is really, really hit or miss, and it leans towards miss more than often. So what I found the best prompting style is to almost be like a product manager. Like you want to write a Jira ticket. And even a step further, like here, this is really a really simple thing, but anyone after that, you see, like I start to even add a to-do list of things I need. So trying not to add anything super technical, but just a list of the steps that it should take, because otherwise anything you don't add in here, it's going to try to make up itself, and it can go really in the wrong direction. You have something in your mind, you say 1 or 2 sentences, and it's completely different. You get that with other people too. Like it's completely different than what you're picturing in your mind. So the more descriptive you can be of what it is that you want, the more accurate the end result is going to be. Also, I would say I was using GPT-4 for the first probably 4 prompts. By the time I got to jumping, though, it really couldn't do it. Like it would jump and then it would fall through the screen. Like I could not prompt it well enough to get it to work. Switching to GPT-5 and everything just worked. So I'm going to try to do GPT-5 the whole time. I imagine it's going to be better. I might have to switch back to GPT-4 for the first few prompts because they were tested on it. So we'll start this first prompt. I'm just telling it, generate initial project folders. It has that in the context from the Copilot instructions here. Right here. I give it this folder structure. Here's what I want: source, an index file, all the different code, like for data structures, put in models, any tests go in test, and then helpers go in the helpers folder. It's pretty simple, so there's not a big structure. If you look at some of the examples I give, some people have huge folder structures, which a real mature project will definitely have. But anyway, it gets the folder structure from here. There's not currently anything built, so it gets it from there. And then I'm just telling it, allow me to run it with npm, create just a white background with a canvas, an HTML5 canvas centered, make the canvas have a black background, use Phaser, which is the game engine, and just put a red circle in the middle of the canvas. This just has acceptance criteria. Really, if I was going to go back and do this, I'd probably do a to-do like I do here, but we'll see. Should probably still be good. And while this is going, if anyone has any questions, if anyone's trying to follow along, feel free to shout out any questions or even any thoughts you have. And just watching it and seeing what it says. It creates a nice to-do list, so you can see. I guess you can kill it if you see that it's obviously wrong. I'll also say there are some things in here, like as we get further, even things like Phaser and like here where I'm saying, so using Phaser in general, but then even here where it's telling like, hey, use Phaser's built-in scene.textures.add sprite. These are not things that I added at the start. I wrote this prompt, ran it, it failed, and then in conversation with the chatbot, it recommended using these, telling it to use these, then fixed it. So I added them to the prompt to get better at it being a one-shot solution. So even if you're non-technical, I wouldn't worry. Some of these things seem like they're super technical, but they're just things I copied from conversation with the agent. All right. Let's see how well it did. All right, looks like it's running. Okay, nice. Yeah, so we got a red circle. Got a red circle. And the reason why I start there is like the simpler you can get each task, the more likely it is to succeed. If I started telling it like, hey, use this sprite, draw the sprite, draw this with a background, and then add jumping, add movement, it's almost like 99% chance that it fails. Nadine asked, why use cursor over other options? I'm actually not using cursor. I'm using VS Code with GPT-5. So I wouldn't say to use cursor over other options. I did use cursor until not that long ago. Cursor is really good. I don't have any really complaints other than it uses a lot of resources, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper to use Copilot right now, and especially after Cursor's recent changes, they're passing on a lot of the costs. So it's even cheaper now than it was when I switched. But I will say the one thing Cursor does have is its agent is better. It's definitely better. Like if I don't know, somehow it has some secret sauce around how it injects code into the context, which seems to result in a lot better code generation and even like even auto completion in writing code, Cursor is better at that. Okay. So that one's done. Yeah, I think just because VS Code is an industry standard, so like there's a ton of plugin support. It's owned by Microsoft, so it's like really robust, really clean. It's always up to date, and using things like Cursor, using things like Windsurf, all of these are just VS Code forks. So it's like choosing the upstream, you know, of what they're all based on. So if we switch to Cursor, like 10-20% of your plugins are going to break because it's at a different code version than the latest VS Code. And there's a few plugins, a few plugins that I use that are breaking with Cursor. So it's really still opinion. Like Cursor is still really good. So I wouldn't try to convince anyone to switch. I switched recently for that reason. All right. So now that we have that, let's see. Now that we have the red dot, I think what I'll do is I'll commit this. I don't know why it modified the README. Package, star source, tsconfig, invite, build one completed, and then I'm going to check out build two. And then in build two, we have this draw player, pretty similar to the first prompt. I have like, we want to grab this image, Jules, as a sprite sheet, replace the red ball with the character facing right. This is just added because it was breaking if I didn't. And then this time I've actually added a to-do list because I find without the to-do list, again, even the acceptance criteria, it does a lot of leaps to try to meet the acceptance criteria, where if I give it a to-do list of steps to do, it works almost every time. So here we're just going to implement a function for reading a sprite from a sprite sheet, add a file for storing that. My thinking is I'll probably want to go in and maybe tweak the pixels or something later. Add a player actor, and video game engines, they call like, your NPC, your player, all of that are called actors usually. And then we want to add a player right sprite. Here is where, if you're following along, you'll want to replace this with whatever your top left and bottom right location are. And then finally, we'll replace the red ball in the canvas with the player. Let's keep everything. I don't know why it says its name here. It's kind of weird. Just going to create a new one, and then we'll see how well this one does. No to-do list this time, it seems like. Yeah, as you can see, it's working. So it just is blatantly ignoring the this present the plan. It just goes for it. I don't know why GPT-5 does that, but there we go, to-do list.
Dylan, you mentioned like for those setup instructions, you had mentioned Cursor, and then you said if you're using Claude, what if you're using like Sonnet inside of Cursor? Which one would you use? Would you use?
I think you'd still use, the Cursor file, because I believe Claude. Now I'm not 100%. I'm 99% sure though. I believe Claude only works if you're using Claude CLI.
The actual, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Claude code. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see if this works. Let's see here. What did it do? Okay, that didn't work. Let's see, continue. I see, because it hasn't replaced the red ball yet. Go ahead. There we go. I don't know. I think it's done. So player sprite is not visible yet. Okay. See, I don't think so. All right, what I'll do is just walk back. Try that again. Do it, continue. Stop. Okay. Right, facing right. All right, we'll try it again. All right. Okay. It seems like for some reason the GPT-5 does a lot of testing the build, which maybe is a good thing. Let's see. All right. Okay, seemed to work. See if it had better luck. That's not, yep, there we go. Nice. Nice. All right, so now we actually have it drawing. Let's accept that. This is pretty nice. It gives a nice log. The next thing I would do is add keyboard input. Again, I have to separate that out. Let me accept keep. Separate that out between the left and right. Moving, not even moving, just like switching the sprite when we move left and right is going to be one prompt, and the next is actually moving left and right, then jumping, then shooting. Just because trying to do it all at once, it gets hung up, and like one of those four things will work, and usually it, I don't know, regress, like it goes back to being a ball or something like that. So let me commit this. Finish build 2, and let me check out build 3. All right. So here they get a little simpler. So we're just going to build off the basic player and extend them so that we can have a mirror when they're facing left. We don't need a second sprite for that since we have the one sprite. We're just going to flip it, and when they hit left, we show that. Otherwise, when they go back to right, we show the other one. Not really a lot of acceptance here, but just the to-do. Let's reuse the existing player right, create a mirror function that does that actual mirroring, and then add a new sprite called player left, and then add support for the keys. Close out of that. A new one. Let's see. All right. Nice. Mm-hmm. Sure. There we go. Nice. Left and right works. Not very satisfying, but it works. Nice. Keep that. Keep that. Close out of you. Status. Commit. Reworks. Check out SB 4. Next step is actually adding the movement. Go in camera and movement. Pretty similar. Just extend the current player. This one I think has maybe the highest chance of failing or doing something weird just because it's going to add the camera now. So it's going to move outside the canvas as the player moves. So holding left, right, send movement. So holding left and right moves the player smoothly across the screen. If I don't add this smoothly, then it's like really jarring movement. So that was an interesting insight. Releasing the key stops the player. That's another thing you think in your head it's just going to know, but it won't. World bounds. Camera, prevent moving beyond world boundaries. I don't think this works. That wasn't working in the final demo. Yeah, players should still be able to move back and forth. And also replace the current black background with this. All right. All right. Hmm. Let's let it test. Okay, I see it's like presenting the plan at the end. So maybe what would be required here is to update Copilot instructions, say at before you do anything maybe. Okay, let's see. See how we're doing. Nothing. Okay. Undo. Yes. Try that one more time. Say spin movement. Maybe I should add a 5. P. Ping from assets. I think what I'll do is if this fails again, I'll probably just check out from the branch just so we have time to get through everything. I think that's probably it. Let's see. Yeah, if it doesn't work, I think it's probably going to be this because that's a pretty big refactor. Let's see them. Let's see. Oh, that worked. Nice. Second time seems to work every time. All right, so now we can move left and right. The background looks pretty nice. Pretty cool. Awesome. So we can add source, get commit, build 4 works, check out, build 5. Keep. All right, so 5 from there. I think it should be pretty smooth. Another one. This one we just want to, all we're adding is jumping. So when they hit the up arrow key, rise and fall smoothly over multiple frames. Jump height 1.5 times the player's height. If you don't add, I don't know, if you don't add, get really specific with like heights, even moving left and right, like saying, like if you don't do that, then it seems to favor like really small, like jarring 5 pixel hops. And then I'll ensure the player always lands on the ground level. Without that, it like falls through the floor. And jumping works. You can jump back up, but then it will putter down, which I guess is a mechanic in something like I don't know, Floppy Bird or whatever it was called. But yeah, not what I want here. Nadine said this is so cool. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is awesome being able to do this, especially once you unlock. Like, I would recommend using one of the latest models. GPT-4 was pretty frustrating, but once I switched to GPT-5 and am doing the to do, like doing it basically like a Jira task, it goes really smooth, and you can really make a lot of progress in a short amount of time. Oh, hopefully I don't run out of GPT-5 requests. I don't know if that's possible. All right, can you? Can you? Nice, passed. All right, let's see where we're at. Tab. Yes, that's not a very good jump. Oh, there we go. I don't know how I just got it to do that. That's what I was talking about. See, it wants to. Okay, every now and then I can jump nice. Okay. Hopefully, what I can do is just tell this, make it jump higher. Right now, it's only jumping a few pixels.
I had no idea that you could put in keyboard input functionality. Like that's so cool.
You mean for on a web app?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the Canvas really unlocks a lot. We're using that, me and Michael are using that for an app we're working on, and the Canvas really unlocks a lot of like basically traditional, everything from video games, anything that's like graphical and keyboard. So it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Right. All right, let's hope this works this time. Come on. No, I'm not doing great. Maybe we'll just have to accept that because we're getting short on time and I want to get through to the end. So we'll just accept that he can't jump very high. Right now, say add source, bit, build 5, done. Check out our speed, build 6. And then 6, we just want to add shooting. Just typical, a red ball hit space, it shoots a red ball in whatever direction, including if you're jumping, then it should assume you're trying to shoot upward. So that here we tell it just extend the player actor so that pressing space spawns the red ball projectile. Ball should be visible. If I don't do that, then it's like it has a ball, but it's not. Can't see it. The player is standing, it travels horizontally in the facing direction. Player is jumping, it travels upward. You should be able to spam. If you want to do like 20 in a row, just space, 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 and then should move continuously until they leave the screen. Keep and continue. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's so weird. All right. Okay, continue. All right. So now, does it work? Yes, actually, it's even better than what I had. Nice. Although it's shooting upward, it's not supposed to do that, whatever. Nice. Nice. All right. So we're going to call that done. So 6 works. Make sure to hit keep. Build 7. Final thing. Sounds. So this one's really, really simple. I just have two music. I downloaded a cool sounding like Super Nintendo sounding background music, like Mega Man or something like that, and then a shooting sound. So this one's really quick. Just when the canvas loads, play the background, extend the player character so that when shooting, the shooting sound plays for each shot fired. Let's go to new. All right, try to build. Okay, passed. Nice. All right. Oh, maybe. There we go. Nice. All right. And that's what I have. Looks like right on time. Awesome. Awesome. I'm really happy that worked. I was expecting something to break along the way. So yeah, there's a lot of things I would improve. I would definitely improve the jumping. That shouldn't shoot up when we're shooting. It seems like 1 out of 5 of them are going upward, even when I'm not hitting up. These backgrounds should be gone. And then, we want to add like platforms that you can jump up, jump up to the top, and then enemies and things like that. But you could, I think just from this process, you could see what it would look like to add those things. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really nice. I don't know that it's actually easier than writing code. I just think it's a different process, but it definitely works. So if there's any questions, anyone who is following along who has anything they want to show or talk about, yeah, or just open the floor for anything.
Did you get the sound to work? I didn't hear it.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. Can you guys hear that? Let me. I'm muting it now. I can unmute it, and
Yeah.
you hear that?
No.
I see. Okay. Yeah. In my. I wonder if that's a Google Meet thing.
Hmm.
wonder if that's a Google Meet thing. That it's just hiding my sound. Wonder. Maybe let me try this really quick. Can you hear it now?
No,
Uh,
it's all right.
yeah, I'm just gonna assume that it's Google Meet blocking my desktop sounds. But yes, it does work. It does definitely work.
Okay. So,
Right.
oh, go ahead. Yeah, what is this?
I just got step 7, which is enemies to spawn. So we got little purple balls.
Oh, nice. I see where you following along.
Yep.
Cool, awesome. Were you gonna ask another question?
Yeah, so I'm like totally new to VS Code and more of these like IDEs. I've been mostly working with like Lovable and like non-technical code builder assistants. So I'm gonna try this out, and I appreciate all the resources here.
Sure.
Can you review just at a high level overview, like what were the main things you did to follow through?
Yeah. Yeah, I can give a high level of maybe the process to come up with. Okay, gotcha. So I will say one thing is that I've built several little video games like this before, so I kind of have a process in mind. If that wasn't the case, I would start with like asking ChatGPT or something. What are the high level things you need to like build a basic game engine? You know, like you need movement, you need some like collision detection, physics, and things like that. But once you know that, then it's just breaking the problem up. And some of this was trial and error. Like I initially didn't start with the red ball. I started like, can I draw a sprite? And after like 6-7 times of tweaking the prompt, it wouldn't work. So I figured I need to split this into two different prompts. Another thing I've been doing is like, you know, you want to have your to-do and your acceptance criteria like you would a Jira ticket. But even then, once I write one of these, I put it into ChatGPT and I tell it like, hey, critique this prompt. What are some things that I'm probably not thinking about? What are some things like, and I tell it I'm using Copilot, and it usually gives pretty good feedback on how to get a prompt without any gaps in it. There's still some trial and error, and still like when I run, like I think I mentioned here, yeah, when I ran this, like it kept not working, and it was because it wasn't using like these built-in functions for Phaser. It was trying to do its own canvas logic. So I ended up having to tell it like, hey, only use Phaser, and I only knew that from running it failing, and then me in the chat window here seeing like why it's failing, asking it what went wrong, getting it to work here by telling it like, hey, I still can't see still can't see it. Once it finally works, I can read, you know, what it did. Especially here, it gives a pretty good like, and then once I see that, I can just like add the working solution into the prompt, kind of, so that the prompt becomes, I don't want to, maybe the scientific isn't a great word, you know, but it becomes repeatable,
Right.
that I can run the prompt over and over and over again. So that's basically, I'd say that's the high level process. I think here also this Copilot instruction is it's a lifesaver. Before this, I would not really use agentic coding in practice because it was really bad. But as we have these, you know, as something like, as you do 2 or 3 prompts and you see there's a similar thing continuing to fail, like add it here, don't do that, or do this. And then because this gets injected in every single prompt, you know, as like basically in addition to the system prompt, you'll slowly build this up. In any project, you know, this is 100 lines. In a real project, this becomes 1,000 lines fast with different data structures, different things that you have in your mind that you want. And like I guess the fatter you get this file, the more you spam this file with your own thoughts, the more accurate what you ask the agent, you know, the more accurate that's going to get towards what you're actually envisioning.
Dylan, I did this to get general vibe coding knowledge as opposed to maybe game. And I've done a few in the past, and something that I found really useful was sort of a post-mortem with Cursor. I got done with it, and I was using Sonnet. I found Sonnet seemed to work best for me. And when I got done with everything, I said, okay, knowing everything you know now and all the questions I've asked and everything, how could I structure my prompts to you next time around? And it gave a file similar to it more instructions. It wasn't even a file, but it was really sort of, this is how we could have probably approached this to get to where we got to, right? And so I found that to be really helpful, and this was extremely helpful to set up instructions. So
yeah, and that's a great idea. That's a really good. Now for me here, I kept creating a new chat window, just to like keep it clean. But I wouldn't, like, in practice, you wouldn't want to do that, right? And in practice, if you don't do that, then you can do exactly what you just suggested, or what Tony just suggested. You, at the end, you can say, like, give me a retro. You could probably even tell it, like, what things would you add to the instruction file,
Yeah, that's kind of what I did, and I'm actually in cybersecurity, so I said, okay, now what would you do? Because I'm not a developer. I own the company, and people are doing the pen testing and whatnot, and so I say, okay, look at OWASP top 10 and now structure this based on the OWASP top 10, and it'll redo everything and say, building, and so eventually I just learned to put that at the start, of course, to say, to make this secure, follow these guidelines.
Yeah. I think there's some here, but no, like, you can never be too cautious. And I agree. I think especially with, like, a lot of times in vibe coding, it's like a proof of concept or an internal tool, so people don't put that much consideration into it. But you definitely do. You definitely do need to, and I would recommend hiring someone like a pen tester or something if you're going to put something custom facing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any other questions? We got a couple minutes left.
Hey, is there a chance the recording is going to be available?
Yes, it will be posted to YouTube, and I think we'll send out. We could send a link out to that YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks for hosting it, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining.
Yeah. Thanks.
Curious what Brent learned, because I heard him say he's never done anything.
Yeah.
What'd you learn, Brent? Probably lost him.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, can you share a little bit about Worldwide Studios?
Yeah, curious.
Yeah, I think maybe I could let Mike